Hello again, everyone. It's so nice to be with you. Our gospel this morning is from the 14th chapter of Matthew. Jesus said to the disciples, "Get into a boat and go on ahead to the other side of the Sea of Galilee." Well, he dismissed the crowd. And after he had dismissed the crowd, he went up the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But by this time the boat, battered by the waves, was far from the land, for the wind was against them. And early in the morning he came walking towards them on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, "It is a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." Jesus said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat, started walking on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he noticed the strong wind, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Just have faith. Get more faith. You need a stronger faith. You've heard those kinds of things, right? Maybe you've said them or thought them to yourself or someone else. I think that's how we hear Jesus' question to Peter in today's gospel. You of little faith, why did you doubt? The implication is that if Peter just had more faith, if he kept his eyes on Jesus, if he hadn't doubted, then he would have walked on the water just like Jesus. I bet some of you have thought that upon hearing this gospel. I tend to struggle with the story, which probably means I struggle with my faith. Maybe you do too. On one hand, I really want Peter to walk on the water. I want to know that it can be done. I want that assurance for the times when the boats of my life is beginning to get battered by the waves, and when I'm far from the land, and when the wind is against me, and when I'm haunted by my ghosts. I want to walk on the water. I want proof that Jesus is real and really present. Don't you sometimes want that too? My guess is that every one of us here today is facing some situation in which we want a walking on the water kind of faith. What is that situation for you today? What would it mean or look like for you to walk on the water? There have been times in my life when I tried to manufacture or get more faith as if it were something that could be amassed or possessed. The problem is that it never works for me. I've never figured out how to get more faith. Do I pray for 10 minutes instead of 2 minutes? Maybe I need to revert back to my grammar school aged self. Back then, I would close my eyes as tight as I could and clasp my hands together as if I was trying to squeeze out every drop of faith, as if it was coming up from my toes. I wish it were that easy. I wish ordering up a supersized faith were as easy as supersizing a burger meal, but I don't think it is. Besides, how much faith do you need to have in order to have enough faith to walk on water? My faith and my understanding of what faith is aren't what they used to be. They've changed over the years. I think there are events, times, and seasons in each of our lives when everything we thought we knew or believed is called into question. You know what that's like too. So do I. And so does Venezuela with its twin earthquakes, Texas and West Virginia with catastrophic flash floods, New Jersey and Wisconsin as they dealt with severe tornadoes, Canada with widespread wildfires, and 1,000 other places across our country and across the world. Some might worry that the questions, doubts, and changes in faith are a loss of faith. But what if they're really a deepening of faith? What if the real tragedy, the greater loss, is for our faith not to change? How sad would it be if today I still have the same faith as that 7-year-old little girl who prayed every day for a 2-wheel bike? Has your faith changed over the last few years? Is it different today compared to, let's say, 3, 5, 15, 40 years ago? If so, how? And if not, why not? I grew up with the idea that faith meant accepting and agreeing with ideas or concepts about God, even if they didn't make sense or match my experience. I'm learning, and I'm guessing you did too. Faith is about my belief in God, but what if it's just the opposite? What if faith is more about what God believes about us than what we believe about God? What if faith is our experience of God desiring us, to coming to us and reaching out to us? Isn't that what Jesus does in today's gospel? I used to think that faith meant living with absolutes and certainty, having no doubts or questions. Faith meant I was unsinkable. Today that feels more like fear and fundamentalism than faithfulness. What if faith is the willingness and courage not to get out of the boat, not to run away, not to try to prove something, but to continue showing up even when everything is being shaken to the core? What would that kind of faith look like in your life today? What would it offer you? What would it ask of you? I've sometimes associated faith with being good and well-behaved, praying harder, believing more and better. But here's the thing, no matter how well-behaved Peter was, how hard he prayed, or how much he believed, he was going to sink. I'm not really surprised that Peter started to sink. His sinking wasn't a matter of faith, it was a matter of physics, gravity, density, buoyancy. There's a part of me that wants to ask Peter, what did you think was going to happen? Why on earth did you think you could walk on water? Let's face facts, people. People can't and don't walk on water. Despite what we often make of this story, I don't think having enough faith to walk on water is the point. I think the point of today's gospel is more about having enough faith to reach out to another who is sinking. That's what Jesus does. Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught Peter. A reaching out kind of faith will always support more weight than a walking on water kind of faith. And again, what if faith is less about our beliefs and more about our actions? What if it's not so much about knowing the truth, but about doing the truth? Throughout all the Gospels, Jesus demonstrates a reaching out kind of faith. He does it with the blind and the deaf, the lame and the lepers, the hemorrhaging woman, Lazarus, the woman caught in adultery. Jesus is always reaching out to people who are in over their heads. You and me included. And more often than not, he does it through the actions of another. Haven't there been times when someone reached out to you when you needed a hand? Think about all the hands that have reached out to various areas of the world stricken by disasters. Recall someone who thanked you for reaching out to them at just the right time. That, my friends, is faithfulness. Peter wanted a walk on water kind of faith. Many of us do. That kind of faith will always be too small. I think that's why Jesus said to Peter, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" That's not a judgment or a criticism of Peter. It's Jesus calling to Peter and to us, calling us into a larger faith, a reach out kind of faith. What would it be like for you and me to live in a reaching out kind of faith today? What do you see that is sinking and over their heads? What would it take to reach out your hand and catch them? Who or what situation needs your hand today? And whose hand do you need? Maybe it feels like you are sinking and struggling to keep your head above water. What if instead of trying to walk on water, you took hold of that hand reaching out to you? Offer a hand. Take a hand. Either way, reach out in faith. And all God's blessed people say, Amen. Have a wonderfully blessed week until we meet again.